What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters Live. I'm David Wilson, and we're back with another Friday stream where we get together as a community and talk about whatever topic I've come up with for the week, and this week is no exception. So just to preface this whole stream, a couple things. Number one, I'm not sure exactly how well this is going to go from a stability standpoint, because I can already tell the stream is hitching a little bit. I don't know what's going on. Probably I did something wrong. But we're going to see how it goes. If the stream drops, I'll try to put it back up again, and we'll just continue from where we left off. But just letting you know in advance that things might be a little bit choppy. Let me know as things go on if the audio or video get a little bit too weird. I'll explain why in a little bit. And the other thing is that this stream is... It may not work. What I'm trying to do, it may not work. It's pretty much par for the course, though. But we'll get into why I decided to do this and why it's different than other times I might have tried something similar in a little bit. All right. So let me say hello to those who are in the chat so far. Hello to, excuse me, Alternate Ved, Rob, Glenn, Mike, Fade. Let's see. I also saw Peter on the other IRC. Robin. Let's see. Benoit, Naokotani. Gun, Larry Schemer. Larry Schemer, I see you doing some important things, and I don't know who you are yet. I need to figure out who you are. Hello to Cal2001. Hello to Jeff. I see Lumi over in the other chat. I'm looking at both of the IRC channels right now to see who's around, because I know people are around before doing, the little bit of pre-game chatting. And hello to Techno. I'm guessing that's Technomag. All right. Let's see. Hello to Raul. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in IRC in a while. Hello to Arnaud, Bala, Anton over on the YouTube side. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Boy, it's been a wacky couple weeks for me. I'll tell you what. We're joking in the IRC that I'm probably reinstalling Guix. No, that was last week. Last week I regaled you with a story of how I tried to install Debian stable and it didn't go so well. So I tried to reinstall Guix, and it also didn't go so well because I was doing some stupid things, not setting up the machine right. But it wasn't really Guix's fault. It's just my own haste in getting the machine back up again. So I ended up not having it ready for the stream. Funny thing about that, I was doing all the installations on this machine that I normally use for streaming, which is a Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Extreme Gen 1, which is a little bit old by this point. I think I bought it in 2018 or 2019. It's okay. It's a decent laptop. Not as good as you would think it would be for all the specifications that it has, but it does the job. Haven't really had many problems with it, but I use it mainly because it has more CPU and it has a GPU. Though it doesn't really do much for me because I'm not using the proprietary NVIDIA drivers and some other reasons for that. Anyway, point being, I was reinstalling Linux, various distributions on that machine, but it wasn't ready for the stream on last Friday. So I had to use my other laptop, the ThinkPad X1 Nano, the one that has been bedeviled by USB-C port flakiness for probably a year and a half at least. I know I've been complaining about this for a while. It got worn out pretty fast. I bought the computer in 2021, and it only took about a year before the port started, losing the ability to charge or to keep a data connection unless you had it, turned a certain way. So I used that laptop on the stream on Friday, and I think because I had to put so much strain on the port to keep it stable to do the stream, the port finally gave up and it doesn't charge at all anymore. So this week I had to go take that computer to a local repair shop, And it turned out to be a good place. The guy there, knew what he was doing. He wasn't actually able to fix it because the pins on the USB-C port had been damaged so much by all the flexing that it couldn't be soldered back correctly. So I have to order new USB-C jacks from AliExpress because apparently Lenovo doesn't make these anymore. I didn't know that there were so many variations on USB-C jacks that go into various computers. Apparently there are different ones for the different ThinkPad generations. So I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, but I was told I had to go to AliExpress to buy USB-C ports so that it could be soldered back on correctly, which probably is fine. And they're cheap. I mean, it's like, maybe €6 per port. So I'm just going to buy some and take it back to this person and get them soldered back on. But in the meantime, I'm without that machine. It's unfortunate because that machine is my primary machine where I do all my writing, I do all my video editing, like all the important stuff is on there. And I think it's sitting right now with like 1% battery left. So I'm being very conservative about the next time I open it because I need to think about which files are the most important to get off there when I'm actually able to get it on again. It may be dead. I don't know. So I may need to take some other options to extract the files in the short term. Anyway, point being, I'm on a single machine streaming setup today, so this is why I'm explaining all this to you, because the stability might be affected by the lack of two machines to run the stream. So we'll see how it goes, especially when I start running Guix system to build system images. I don't know if we're going to go that far. We'll see what we do. We'll talk about it in a minute. Peter says $6 for a USB connector seems crazy. Well, if they're the only place you can get it, they can pretty much charge whatever they want. So I'm surprised they're only charging $6 for that, or €6. Faye says, weren't we just discussing new hardware? Last week we were, yeah. I'm going to go back to that at some point. I didn't really want to get into that again today. We could do it a little bit, but I don't know. Let's just do this because it's related to something I want to do next. Let's see. Judy says, we can't break the environment today. Sounds like a perfect time to tinker with the window manager. We're not going to tinker with the window manager in this environment. It's going to be fine. We're just going to try to set up something simply. We'll see how simple it is. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Mike says, you live a complicated life. Yeah, I make a lot of bad choices. I also procrastinate far too long. So this is my message to all of you out there who tend to procrastinate whenever you see a problem with your computer. Don't let it linger for too long. I got complacent. I was like, okay, this thing is kind of flaky, but it's working. And I let it be like that for long enough that eventually it, yeah. See, Bade says ADHD is a thing, and I see his message and I get distracted immediately. So obviously you can see the effects of that. Anyway, what was I saying? Don't let things linger, because eventually it's going to bite you in the ass and you're not going to have access to all the stuff that you need. So yeah, just let me be the example to you to not procrastinate and fix the problems that are appearing to you whenever your computer is misbehaving. Okay? So ADHD is a thing, and we all cope with it in our own way. Mine is to procrastinate endlessly until everyone is yelling at me, even my hardware, and that's how it goes. I'm just kidding. It's not that bad, but it's almost that bad. Let's see. Peter says 10 pieces for Lenovo T480 for $499. Where'd you find that? Robin says for the window manager, one could just use Zephyr or XNest. Well, you can run Wayland in Wayland, so that's not a problem. Technomog says the one laptop per child project had a crank for power that doesn't sound so silly anymore. Yeah, it would be nice if I could just crank my what do you call it? X1 Nano to charge it. Peter is sending a link to AliExpress here. Let's see. Can I open this without it completely destroying everything? Come on. Is this for one piece or for multiple pieces? Maybe it's for multiple. Okay, so maybe I'm reading the post wrong, but that post that you sent, Peter, looks similar to others I've seen. So it may be the case that it has multiple in there. I don't know. They're very small. They don't seem that complicated to manufacture in bulk, so I would imagine that I should be able to buy them cheap. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping. So I don't know how long it takes for these things to get here. Excuse me. for these things to get here. It might be a month. So we'll see if I actually get that computer back online anytime soon. I'm probably gonna have to get another laptop at some point because as much as I like that X1 Nano, it's been a pain in the ass, and it's probably not gonna survive having the USB-C ports changed. So what was I gonna say? Oh, also, you probably noticed already, I've been sick because school started back for both kids at the beginning of September, and as it is inevitable, I was able to pick up some nice little virus this week from one or both children. So we'll be dealing with that this stream as well. So it's going to be a real good stream, I'll tell you. Peter says, they all look alike and are similar, but better order directly spares as shipping will be a big part and it takes forever. Yes, it will take forever. I'm probably going to try a couple variations to see which one actually works in the end. Peter says, make an app that sells Emacs config and make the user pay $50 a year to download the config. That sounds interesting, but I think that as soon as I did that, I would get yelled at incessantly by many people. But would somebody pay for an Emacs configuration? Like, what would it take for somebody to pay for an Emacs configuration? I would think that if someone was going to charge for an Emacs config, it would be Henrik, who makes Doom Emacs, because that one's pretty polished by this point. But I don't know, like, could anyone really charge for an Emacs configuration? That would be kind of crazy. Raul says, you broke a ThinkPad. It's like exploding a tank with a slap. No. That you're thinking of like the X220 laptop, like the old school ThinkPad laptops. I'm talking about the newfangled, super ultra light, X1 Nano that has a thin motherboard, thin chassis, everything. These are much easier to damage. Apparently, the Gen 1 of that, which I should not have bought, was very weak. It says, children, perfect bioreactors to change the virus just enough to destroy the parents. Oh, yeah. Edge Crusher says, doesn't Sha Li charge money to get his Emacs config? He might. I don't know how many people are buying it, but I know that he does charge money for some of the things that he makes, which I think is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine to do that. I don't have a problem with people charging money for Emacs configurations. I just think that people won't pay for it. So, once you're trying to sell something, you probably should have thought about whether somebody wants to buy it before you try to sell it. Unless you don't really care whether someone buys it, then it doesn't matter. Okay, so moving on. That was the story. I think it's not very interesting, but I'm telling you anyway, just to make excuses for myself for why things might not go so well today. So hopefully that was convincing. So news. Big news today, because I finally finished doing this when I have been putting it off for a while. The hands-on Guile scheme for beginners course is now an on-demand course, which means that you can learn scheme, functional programming, and Guile at your own pace by following through the same material that the people who were going through the, I guess you could call them the group cohort version earlier this year. It's the same material. It's just given to you all at once. There's no live Q&A sessions like there were in the previous version for that. What else? But yeah, it's still got all the same exercises, and there's forum access. So there's a private forum area. So if you purchase the on-demand version of the course, you will get added to a private forum area where everyone else who is taking the course at different times and different paces, etc., will be discussing the material, Emacs setup, geyser usage. Also, if you work on the exercises and you want someone to take a look at them, you can kind of post it up there, and somebody who's there or me will take a look at it. Basically, it's kind of like a community vibe, but mainly for the people who are participating in this course. So it's kind of like what we were doing earlier this year, but more asynchronous, let's say. So the same page is where you can find details about that. It is, I've already got to pull it up here. So it's on systemcrafters.net. The link is in the show notes, but if you go to systemcrafters.net and then you hit the courses link at the top, then it's the first one up here. And in fact, I think even on the home page, I'm linking to it. So there we go. But anyway, it's the same material. Let me see. I didn't break. I broke that link. I need to fix that link. But anyway, just check it out there. And if you click on over to the System Crafter store, you'll see the registration page. You can sign up there, or you basically check out there for the course. And then once you do, hopefully the webhook will kick in and it will send you an invite to the forum so that you get immediate access. Now, I just got all this wired up today, so if it doesn't work, I will personally email you an invite so that you get in. So if you purchase a course, you will be able to get into it one way or another. And I'm certainly interested to hear people's feedback about it as they go through it, because there may be things there that were tuned to the sort of live configuration that might need to be tweaked a little bit. So I'm happy to do that. There's also other places where I might need to polish things up a little bit. So those of you who are getting in now are, might get a little bit of a rougher experience, but it's still like the same material that people had gotten in the previous iterations. So just want to let people know about that. I'll probably be announcing it more broadly next week. This is the only place I've mentioned it so far because I just got it set up today. But next week I'll polish some things up, and then it's the same one, Dave. It's just it's on demand now, so it's not like the live cohort thing that we were doing earlier this year. It will be, Dave. I'm mentioning that next. So yeah, I think it'll be fun for people. A lot of people were asking about when the course was going to happen again. So this is it. So if you want to take the course now, you can do it, and you can do it anytime you want, which is great. Glenn says, you'll get a ton of traffic for my blog post. Remind me of your URL, Glenn. Actually, if I go to the, what is it? Craftering System Crafters. Is this showing up in the Googles? Why is it not being indexed? Let's see. I don't even know. So I heard Codeberg was down yesterday. Codeberg.org/systemcrafters Craftering. Thank you. Oh, does it work? Yeah, good. All right, great. Glenneth.org. All right, so Glenn has a post, a journey into Scheme. I'm going to link this into the show notes because I forgot about this, but let me just put it in here at the end. Maybe we'll discuss it for a second. Glenneth's post on his Scheme journey. Okay, there you go. All right, so I wanted to pull up that the Autumn Lisp Game Jam has been announced. It's going to start on October 25th of this year, from October 25th to November 3rd. That is 10 days, right? Is that usually 10 days? So that is going to be a fun event. I would imagine that many of you who are here now actually saw me do a live streaming of the event in the spring. Yes, Russell, I have not gotten to email you back on that yet, but yes, it's up there now. So you can actually go there and check out the course on demand. So the Spring Lisp Game Jam was really cool. I had a lot of fun writing a game with Guile Hoot. I think this is the second time I've written a game with Guile Hoot in the Lisp Game Jam events. Last autumn, I had written a solitaire game using Guile Hoot. Very, very early version of Guile Hoot. It was a little bit painful. In spring, it was better, much better, because the platform had improved a lot. Now, this time, I think it would be much, much better. I'm still deciding if I'm going to use Hoot or not. I'm kind of like half thinking I want to use Janet, but because of the affinity towards Guile and to Guile Hoot, I'll probably end up doing it in Guile Hoot just because we need to kind of continue seeing how the tooling is developing, like so people can see what's going on there. I'm trying to think about whether I will stream or not. Last time I streamed pretty frequently in the jam. Went well. I think we had fun. I don't know if I'll do it this time. We'll see. We'll see. If people really, really, really want to see it, I'll do it, but Dave says, I won't get too mad. Use what you want. Well, the thing is, like, Janet's cool, but I'm still curious to see what's going to happen with Hoot, like it's because it keeps developing nicely. So, I want to keep trying to promote it and use it. Let me get back to the chat because I'm just looking at my face on the other screen here. Let me see what's going on here. All hands on Guile. Yeah. People were joking about me being on time. Yes. I figured that if I was going to screw up everything last week and be 45 minutes late, I damn well better be on time today. So maybe next week I won't be on time. We'll see. But today I wanted to be on time for you all. Let's see. SSH access was down for Codeberg yesterday for a while. Yeah, Codeberg is so flaky, man. I've been using it less and less, which I hate because I like it. I like what they're trying to do, but the lack of stability is a problem. Dave says, I think I'll be taking it easy during this jam, but maybe I'll iterate on some past Hoot jam entries like Strigoform. That would be cool. The owner says, is Janet even legally considered a Lisp? It's Lispy enough for me. I mean, it is more like Clojure, and we can all argue about whether Clojure's a Lisp or not, because, you know, there are probably some points for and against that. But yeah, it's more like Clojure, but it's Lispy enough, I think. I just like the platform of Janet, mainly. Oh, actually, here's another thing. Damn, what's that book called? Cal. What's that book called that you told me about? The C compiler book. I bought it and I've been reading it, but I forgot what it's called. Write Your Own C Compiler. It's a no starch book. No starch, I typed that. Writing a C compiler. This just came out. It's a book about how to write a C compiler from scratch. Seems pretty awesome. So I'm kind of slowly working through this, and I'm going to write a C compiler in Janet as a way to learn Janet. So it's kind of cool. If you have any interest in writing a compiler from C to assembly code, because that's basically what happens in this book, is you parse C code, not the whole language, just like some targeted parts of the language, and then you turn that into kind of an intermediate representation that then can be turned into assembly code, and then you use the normal, like, you know, GNU assembler, etc., to turn the assembly code into native binaries. So you don't write like an actual compiler down to x86. You write a compiler to, I think, AT&T assembly. So it seems cool. I don't know. I'm super interested in kind of playing around with it because I really enjoyed the book Crafting Interpreters, and that's the reason why I wrote my mesh. I wouldn't really call it a language so much as a compiler. So Crafting Interpreters, which is a very apropos title for a book that I would read. So yeah, that's also a really cool book. If you want to learn how to write a bytecode interpreter for a bespoke programming language. Anyway, just bringing that up. Let's see, what am I missing in the chat? Just don't let the common Lisp people hear you say this, Dave says. Yeah, the common Lisp people in general are very particular about who gets to call what a Lisp. Tendamog says, I have that in my bookshelf still one day. The problem with writing or learning how to write any kind of compiler is that writing compilers is a little bit addictive, and you can get sucked into that, especially if you are focus challenged like me, where you get sucked into a single project for a really long time and sort of forget everything else that you're supposed to be doing. Yeah, I hesitate to recommend that everyone do that because it's a rabbit hole that you might not find your way out of. Russell, excuse me. Russell says, a scheme not considered a Lisp? It's considered a Lisp. We're just joking around. We always like to, you know, fight against Lisps in here. Fight between Lisps, you know. Hey, Alex. Alex says, a great author, that guy. Yeah, Bob Nystrom is really good. He's also written a couple books on, well, he wrote one book on game engine design patterns, which was cool. I haven't read through that one completely yet. Seek says, what's the font on your site? It's really beautiful. That is Jost. Jost font. Let's see. Yeah, Jost Star font. Sure. Yeah, it's that one. It's cool. Yeah. All right. Back to IRC side. Yeah, Robin says, don't read Lisp in small pieces or Scheme 9 from empty space if you were such a person. Yeah, Lisp in small pieces. I started with that a few years back, but I didn't like it. as much as crafting interpreters. Lisp in small pieces is more of like a straight interpreter. Does it go into compilation later on? I know it gets deeper later. I never really got through toward the end of it. But it is a good book for sure. I've not seen Scheme 9 from Empty Space though. Dave says all problems become compilation problems. Judy says focus challenge. I'm going to take that one. Yeah, you should, because it is kind of like that. I'm trying not to say ADHD too much. I've never been diagnosed, but I definitely have focus problems, meaning that something will attract my attention and then everything else kind of just fades into the periphery. Tunnel vision, I guess you could call it. And the people around me are not so happy with that a lot of times. Let's see what else. Yes. All right. Robin says it can be terribly addictive. Yes, it can be terribly addictive because you're basically trying to put order into the universe through compilation and language design. Russell says, oh, while fighting, I like to say chicken is a dumb name for any language. Yeah, we discussed that last week. I don't use chicken scheme just because of the name. All right. So let's get into today's actual topic. No, wait. First, let's just quickly talk about Glenn's post, because I haven't looked at it yet, because he just posted it today, I'm guessing, and I've been totally checked out on IRC because I don't have my normal setup. So Glenn has been learning Scheme since, what's it been? Since maybe February? Because I know Glenn went through the first iteration of the Guile course, and he had a good time there, and afterward started to Glenn is not a programmer by trade. Glenn is sort of just a system crafter. You know, he's interested in Linux and crafting a system. Got interested in Guix and decided to learn Guile. But after learning Guile, decided to build a project called Guile Stash, which is basically like GNU Stove, but written in Scheme. So I think he's talking about the development of that project here, some of the other things that he learned about. Yeah, problem solving, support resources. This is cool. It's nice that you included all that. System Crafters on Libra Chat, a super helpful IRC channel. When we're not making stupid jokes all day, or when Summer Emacs is not basically regaling us of the tales of her life in Paris, or coming up with strange stories about me being a fisherman in like some time period of Greece that doesn't actually exist. So, yeah. It's an interesting IRC channel, but what I can say is I love all of you. It's a great channel. I really like the vibe in there. You know, we have a lot of really interesting characters that come through, and we have some funny conversations. So that's what really matters. I don't know if people are getting helped a lot in there, though, but that's okay. That's what the forum is for. I'm hoping people are getting helped on the forum. Anyway, go check out Glenn's post and give Glenn a pat on the back for sticking it through with Guile and learning how to write a program, which is awesome. Okay. So today's topic, crafting a minimal sway environment. I feel like we've talked about this before. I feel like I've done this before. However, the angle that I'm coming at this today is a little bit different. So my experience last week was interesting because I tried installing Guix a different way, and that's part of the reason why things didn't go so well. So the installation video I made for Guix in 2021 was primarily focused on sort of hijacking the quote-unquote graphical installer to set up the machine to the point where you can make some tweaks to the configuration that it generates and then install. Judy says, I remember we've been trying to get Sway to boot inside a VM for some time ago. Yeah, we're not trying to do that today for sure. It probably won't work. Yes, we basically use the graphical installer to go through the whole process until it generates our configuration, but then we don't let the installer apply the configuration. We actually drop into another TTY, make some tweaks to the config so that we can actually configure the full Linux kernel before applying the system configuration. So it's kind of like halfway through with the graphical installer and then doing some manual tweaks at the end. So the strategy that I took this time was to only use the graphical installer to set up Wi-Fi, which really isn't 100% necessary. I mean, you can use WPA supplicant in the terminal and get it done pretty easily, especially if there's a script that can help you with that. So I just use it to get the Wi-Fi turned on, and then I would go into the terminal And the Guix distribution, or the installation image, comes with, let's see if I actually have Guix pulled here. Cool, I do have it. I don't know how recent this repo is. Let's see. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Come on now. Why so slow? 8 months? That's fine. Whatever. So let's see. Guix. Where is this file? Desktop SCM. What file did I use? Minimal. Is this new? Is this stuff new? I don't want to have to be pulling this repo right now because it's probably going to take some time. Anyway, point being, on the installation image, there are some pre-canned configurations that you can start from if you don't want to use the full installer, which I actually think is kind of an interesting approach. I'm thinking through a possible alternative installation strategy for Guix where you don't actually try to have the installer set up the initial system for you. What you do is use a bespoke configuration and apply it to the new system. The only thing you would really do is just whatever tweaks are necessary to set up your disk mappings, your bootloader configuration, maybe your host name, and anything else minor that's needed just to make the system work with the hardware. But then you start with a really minimal configuration to get the machine booted, and then from there you can start doing other things. You can start using the machine primarily, but then you can either pull your dot files and apply your system configuration with your dot files, or just start tinkering with the pre-canned configuration and build on top of it. So it's kind of a streamlined installation process, but it actually could work for a beginner because if you provide some scripts in the installation image, like if you create a custom installation image that have scripts for setting up Wi-Fi, tweaking the disk partition mounts, helping you with the partitioning strategy, things like that. I think that maybe you don't really need the full graphical installer, and you could kind of step someone through a Guix installation without some of the headache, and then have an actual initial system to use, and then change that. The nice thing about Guix is that when you install a system, you can, your local changes will get overridden. What did I do here? Nothing. There's just an A in here. Fantastic. No. So as I was saying, the nice thing is that when you install a system with Guix, if you want to change that system configuration entirely and then clear off all that stuff you don't use anymore, you just update your system configuration with whatever new stuff you want to put in there, and then you run Guix GC to clean up all the unused build folders effectively in the store. So, point being, I think there's a path where someone can install Guix in a way that is a bit more streamlined. It doesn't require so much tweaking that you might have to do in the old process that I was explaining. So what's the point of this stream? The point of this stream is to create such a bootstrap configuration that one could easily apply and potentially get started quickly without having to do too much work on their end. By the way, thank you, Russell, for jumping on the course there. Let me know if you get the email for the invite. Let me know if you actually saw that. Hopefully it works. What am I seeing in the chat here? Hello to Magic Man. And Bio1 says, I last tuned in when it was snow on the ground. While I'm here punting bug bounty programs with Emacs, even made a reverse shell and comment, maybe reverse shell tramp. Emacs can do anything if you try. Good to be in a position in life where I can tune in today. Well, nice to see you, Bio1. Sounds like you're doing some cool stuff with Emacs. All right. So we've got this pulled down. I want to look for that minimal. That minimal configuration. Minimal. Where is this? I swear to God, I saw it on the installation image. There's no way that was with the non-Guix image because I actually used the non-Guix image to install. Let's see. Maybe the non-Guix image is the one that has it. Doesn't seem right though. Let's go look at the installer configuration. No. Probably it's in non-GNU, eh? Systems, system, install. Yeah, this is just based on the normal installation OS. So maybe if I go and look for define installation OS. Thanks, Russell. Appreciate it. I'm glad to see that you actually got the email. Didn't have a forum account for some reason. Had to click on the invite link twice. Once when I registered and once after I registered. Okay, cool. Let me know if it works out, if you can get access to things. All right, so installation OS. Excuse me. I'm looking to see if it mentions installer disk utilities. Huh. I wonder if it's changed over time, but it also could be template files that are somewhere else, etc. Installer. I'm looking for okay, that's weird. Let me check the IRC in case anybody has pointers on that. Judy says, so kind of like pack strapping a minimal system just with the Guile. I guess. I haven't used that. Faith says, I think we all do our best in any given situation. Trev says, System Crafter's help doesn't exist yet. It did. But I got rid of all the extra IRC channels. Because I felt like it was overkill. It's really difficult to track multiple IRC channels, especially for me. I'm usually just watching the System Crafter's channel most of the day. So I felt it was better to have one place to go. Judy says, if there's a programmable way to install a system and not shell scripts, I'd be very happy. Well, yeah. I mean, it would be shell scripts at the front end, I think, just to get things kicked off. It would be nice to have something that's a little bit more customizable, I guess. So I'm trying to think, like, what's the best way to do this? I've got... Where's that USB stick? I've got the USB stick here. Let's see. All right, so if I look at slash media slash David Will Guix image, etc. Where was that? Interesting, it's not in the etc. folder. Okay, nothing is there. I don't know why nothing is showing up. Unless it's all sim-linked and it won't show up. Okay, so let's go into the GNU store folder. Minimal. No. System. Just trying to like see if I can find where those files are. I swear, man. Desktop. There was something in there. I'm not using actual hardware. No way. I'm not installing this on actual hardware. No way. We're not going to run and install right now. JFred says, I wonder if you could have a Pixie server that serves a Guix system image plus a config for that machine identified by a MAC address. That would be pretty cool, but probably not useful more than once or twice. Trev says, are you looking for the default GNOME config.scm that give in the installer? Yes, one of those. Where are they at? I know I've seen them somewhere. Okay, so there's like a systems folder or something, man. I swear. No. I have seen these files. I swear they exist. Let's see. Maybe there's another way to look for this. Services. system images. Okay, hold on. I don't know if this is it though. This is a different folder of files. Excellent. Thanks, Russell, for confirming. I appreciate that. Very helpful. All right, all right. So I swear I did use one. I'll actually show you the one that I started with because I have it on my computer, on my system here. So this is the without full-blown desktop. So let me check for that. There we go. Template file. Come on, man. Here we are. Lightweight desktop. Excuse me. This is what I started from. So this is a file that gets put on the installation image that has a basic system configuration. I did tweak this because I don't really care to use rat poison or i3 or exwm because it's all X stuff. But this is kind of what I have in mind. If I had a minimal config like this, which didn't really have much in it, it even used things like desktop services because I don't care too much. I mean, we really just need something that works. Don't want to get too tweaky with it. Then you could have a very simple or more or less simple configuration that you could use to bootstrap a Guix system pretty easily. When I say bootstrap, what I mean is to install a base configuration on a machine so that you can boot into it and have it be functional enough to continue configuring it however you want, right? Does that make sense? I'm just thinking mainly for the purpose of someone like me who has to reinstall Guix for some reason, which is pretty rare unless you do something stupid like I did. And you want to get started back up quickly. Now, it is possible, obviously, for a person to already have their own Guix configuration ready to clone it onto the local machine while booted into the installation ISO and just apply that directly. It is possible to do that. So not everybody needs this approach. I could have taken the .files approach, but because I found these files, I was like, let me try that and see what happens. And it ended up being a pretty interesting experiment. So anyway, point being, we're going to try to adapt this configuration or adapt the one that I actually created and see how far we can get. If we were to go look at that config.scm, I mean, you see, like I had to put my like map devices stuff in here because I'm using encrypted volumes. I set up my system root. I set up my boot partition and basic user configuration, basic list of packages. So did I even install anything else? I didn't install Sway. I just installed Emacs, Git, and rsync. Okay, that makes sense because what I intended to do was to just boot into the terminal and then apply my .files configuration there. And I'll just use rsync as the way to pull files across, backup files from another machine. Ashra says, I'm late. What did I miss? Just a lot of talking. I was on time, but then I spent most of the time talking. So we haven't really made any progress yet. All right. Now, the thing about this is to do a minimal Sway config, we're going to need to generate a Sway configuration, which is not too hard. And we're going to do it as a home config. We're not going to do it as a system config. Why? Because personally, I don't think it's necessary to use a graphical login manager. You can just log in straight to the TTY and then have Guix Home apply your local user Sway desktop configuration. So, Peter says, he was on time, but he caught up quickly. Yes, I caught up to my usual lateness time. Because we just talk. We're having a good time here, right? Maybe? No? Russell says, like before, you can download and install the non-free kernel. Yeah, we want to make that as seamless as possible, for sure. All right, now, let me think. So let's start from this configuration. I'm just going to copy it. And I'll drop it somewhere. Let's see, where can I put this? Temp, excuse me. Minimal Sway .scm is laptop docking in scope. That pretty much just works with Wayland in my experience. It says, I doubt it. Dude, you've been using X too long, man. Use Wayland. It's fantastic when it comes to things like this. I don't really have any problems with multiple displays or docking or anything like that anymore. It all works. Wayland plus Pipewire is so much better than the previous generation of technology. Sakarosium, is that right? Says, Guix doesn't have systemd, right? Did you find any issues with defining services? I imagine that not every package that needs one had it by default. Well, no, it uses Shepherd instead. But defining services is not very hard in Shepherd. What is minimal intain here? You're looking at it. I mean, this basically like my environment, right? So something like this, we really only have like the normal sway bar. I know Trev mentioned goo bar before. We're not going to go into that right now. But yeah, just plain configuration with an app launcher. I guess that was probably a good question. I should probably explain what I mean by a minimal configuration, but just normal sway environment with just some programs set up that could be useful as a normal desktop environment, like Mako, Fuzzle, other things that I'm using in my own configuration. So if I were to go look at that, config, sway, config, there's a lot of stuff in here for like displays and whatnot that we don't really need. But these auto start applications are kind of the interesting ones, because if you set up Network Manager, you have the NM applet for seeing your network status, UDisky for USB drives that you plug in, and Mako, and also Fuzzle, which is bound to a key binding. So you basically are able to have an app launcher, right? Trev says, Goobar and Guix go together like peas and carrots. Yeah. Is that a Of Mice and Men reference? Judy says, what do you mean UDisky? Just mount that /s. /s meaning sarcasm. I'm lazy. I don't want to have to go mounting things. I just want it to do it itself. So that's why I use UDisky. All right, let's get back to it. So a lot of the stuff that's in here, that's kind of default for Sway, I wouldn't bother configuring. Probably just the bare minimum. However, when it comes to someone replacing this configuration with their own, maybe it will be a little bit annoying because they'll have to use Guix Home to edit it, but we'll see. The other goal would be to have it all as a single file configuration. So let me go back to the org file. That's not the right one. Okay, goals. Single file starter configuration with Guix system plus home. Configure Sway minimally. Whoa. Shouldn't use arrow keys, apparently. With some useful applications for a simple desktop environment. Use Pipewire for audio. Yeah, pretty much anything else that I see in my home config that would be useful for that. Trev says, actually, it was a Forrest Gump reference. All right, I'm mixing my my movies that have special characters, let's say. Ashra says, no, Judy Dev uses mount on PowerShell. /s as an argument there. PowerShell does not use slash for any of the parameters, does it? What's the mug there? Oh shit. I just poured coffee on my keyboard. Fantastic. No, not subtle product placement. In fact, speaking of PowerShell, I don't know if you can see this. Let me actually pull up the screen so I can see it. That is a mug from the PowerShell Conference 2016. It says, "We love PowerShell." Why am I drinking from that? Because it's probably the best shaped mug that I have, and it's not broken, so that's why I'm drinking from that. I'm really hoping that this keyboard does not short out now that I've spilled coffee in there. For the DOS commands, yeah, the DOS commands definitely have the slash, but yeah, PowerShell commands do not. All right. What are we Uing? PowerShell? I used to be paid to work on PowerShell, man. You know, it was fine. Any GUI file manager? No. My assumption is anybody who's going to be using something like this will be interested in using Emacs. So probably they'll just load up Emacs for that purpose. The mug is emanating mind control mesons from Redmond. Really? We can blame David Will for PowerShell? No. I played a very minor role in the history of PowerShell. Very minor. I wrote the VS Code extension. Okay. So I use Pipewire for audio. What else? All right. So look, it's been an hour. Okay. Almost an hour. Screen recording and screenshotting, maybe. I don't know. Like, what is it really that we're looking for here? This should not be a full or a complete. It's meant to just to get someone productive enough to continue configuring their system. Okay. Yes, Peter. Instant Karma, PowerShell Cup leads directly to coffee in the keyboard. It seems that was in the cards for me today. After all, excuse me. After all the problems I've been having lately, maybe this cup is the reason. Maybe this is kind of like the what do you call it? I don't know. One of these things that give you bad luck. Not really like an omen. Done with that now. Sorry, checking the other chat. Flat pack, flat hub. Probably won't go that far. Okay. ThinkPad keyboards are waterproof. They have a drain. I don't know if the USB-C or the USB keyboards are like that. Maybe Rofi or other application launcher. Yeah, that's what we're gonna excuse me, use Fuzzle for. To me, Fuzzle is nice because you don't need a configuration file. Maybe with Rofi you don't either, but you can just kind of add command line parameters to the invocation. Monkey's Paw Chalice. Yeah, it could be like that. Should be something not like Erbsluft default experience. Sorry, I know I'm butchering that again. With green screen and no hints of what to do next, or a way to launch other than super enter for terminal. That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, someone should be able to boot into it and not be completely lost. Maybe the idea is that you'd boot into like a minimal browser with a info page, an HTML page, or maybe actually boot in the Emacs with an info page. That would be cool, right? Basic Emacs config. We're not going to do all that today, but basic Emacs config with a an info page that tells you how to use it, right? Can't speak. Let's get back to it. All right, so we have our basic config file that I had created, minimal sway. This is not sway yet. We're going to get to that. So what we need is basic system config, and the home config is the place where most of the work is going to get done. So configure sway, and the user will have to log in. So whatever the basic user account is, that will be what we'll have to log in with. Default desktop background with some hints on what to do next. That could actually work too. Might be a little bit annoying, but it could work. Simpler probably than trying to get Emacs to boot up. All right. So we're not Europe, Paris. We could say what, UTC? Who knows? But someone would end up changing this anyway. Athens. Hostname Crafter. Sure, why not? We're going to use the full Linux kernel from non-GNU, from 9Guix. Rid of that. Now the question is, if I want to test this out, I don't need to test the full system configuration out because the full system config is going to be pretty simple. The home config is the thing that matters more. So define home config, right? Home environment. Let me go over to my own home config, my .files repo, find file, common. So GNU home, services, etc., etc. Excuse me. Let's drop some package includes in here. Do a little deletion on this. So Control X space, do a little rectangular selection on that. Delete. All right, clean that up a little bit. Cool. Service modules desktop. Do I use that anywhere? Cool. Let's go back to home environment. That's not here. Let's go to Phantom. Home environment. This is a service list. Okay. Common home services. Profile in vars service. Which of these do we need? Sure, we could take the visual and editor stuff, maybe. Maybe some of this stuff for setting up Wayland and Sway. Crafty says Fade, maybe. Peter says, I really like how you can separate system config and home config and Guix and then independently share common things. Yeah, it is kind of nice to be able to do that. Did I write in the notes that the substitutes would be there? Should be there by default. Well, yeah, you should be able to run the installation without having to pull anything. It should be relatively up to date, but we're not going to deal with that right now. Actually, I didn't really say what the ultimate goal here is. Soon, I want to make a video. You can tell me whether you think this is a good idea or not. I want to make a video that explains how one can create their own custom installation image for Guix. That is set up in a way to do a streamlined install like what I'm describing here. Now, why would I tell you how to do this rather than just give you an image like this? Because I think it's an interesting way to show a practical application of using a Guix configuration to accomplish a goal that is not a normal, just like set up a system configuration task, right? Something that where you're like, okay, I want to create an installer image. I want it to do this and this. I want to include some files with it, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's a bit more interesting because it shows you some tricks that are kind of like not the mainstream usage patterns that you would find in normal Guix configurations. Now, I say that knowing that I haven't actually covered the details about Guix system configurations yet in a video. So I might have to do that first. I might actually have to make a video describing what a Guix operating system configuration contains and how one might configure it in a few different ways. So I'm trying to decide which of those videos I'll do first because there are people who don't even know the thing I just mentioned, which is how an operating system configuration is put together. It might be useful because I really didn't move forward in the Guix series that I had been working on so far back. So it might be useful to cover that before I get into a more advanced scenario of building a custom image. I could just do that as a stream, but I feel like there's a lot of things that I cover in streams that don't really make it into a more useful, consumable form that someone could take and learn from. Because who wants to watch a 2-hour stream of me bumbling around and not getting things working most of the time? Maybe you'll learn some things, but I'd rather have a video out there that explains some of this stuff. So that's the idea. It's like make a video ultimately about making a custom installation image for Guix so that you can learn a lot of interesting tricks. Cal says, do that. Yes, no idea how system configuration works. Yep. Let's see. Piotr says, you mentioned at the start that you're using an NVIDIA GPU, but you aren't using it. Which generation is it? I don't remember which one it is. Excuse me. Does LSPCI tell me that? So it's whatever this is. GP107GL. Oh, that's an audio device. My bad. NVIDIA. Here it is. Yes, a GTX 1050 Ti mobile. I've used the proprietary drivers with it before. It did work. But Sway was yelling at me, and something weird was happening with it, so I didn't really persist with it. But it is possible to do that with Guix. Oh, the thing that was annoying was that if you want to actually use a Guix packaged program with the discrete graphics, you have to use this tool called NVX, which requires you to patch the Guix package, or what's the right word for that? Damn it. There's a specific term that Guix uses for this. It's not patch. What am I thinking about? Graft. It's a package graft. Package graft is something you can do to a package to affect how it works without actually rebuilding the package, right? So you have to graft packages to change the default OpenGL driver package, Mesa something, Mesa drivers or something, to use another package instead so that it links to the proper libraries, which is a pain. I didn't really want to have to do that. So that's why I've avoided using it. Even though it would be nice to have it, I would like to be able to use the full graphics card. I don't know. I'm holding out hope that these new Intel Ultra chipsets have better hardware accelerated graphics in them, so that I don't have to worry about using a switching graphics adapter on a laptop in the future, because it's just such a headache, man. I don't want to have to use that. All right, so back to it. So we need a home config. I also need to be able to test the home config in a container, because we're not going to run the whole system configuration. I'll have to think about how we can do that in a single file config. It may not work so well. We'll see. If I do the system config as a container, I wonder what that will do. We'll have to try it and see what happens. Peter says, amazingly for me, I even got Sleep and Hibernate to work properly on the desktop. I haven't tried that yet. I mean, Sleep works fine. You mean with an NVIDIA chipset with the things plugged in? Yeah, that would be more complicated for sure. Okay. So, home environment config. We need to take a look at what I've done in my own config one more time. We might need some of these environment variables. We don't really need the bash configuration stuff. That will be added by default, I think. Profile files service. We will probably need that for the Sway configuration file. So home files service type. Yeah, this is okay. Here we go. Sway file like object. So we have an example here of actually having a Sway configuration to be dropped in. Home XDG configuration files service type, which is another way to put that in the config folder, which is cool. All right, so that's probably what we'll end up using. Home XDG configuration file service type. And I'll copy this real quick, just as a way to get that bootstrapped. Not here, in here. Services.